who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection is in mysticism. Text 38. O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? Text 39. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy but for you no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. Text 40. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. Text 41. The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. Text 32. Or, if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in this world. Text 43. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. Text 44. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. Text 45. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. Text 46. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the purgative worker. Therefore, O Arjun, in all circumstances, be a yogi. Text 47. And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Prabhuji, should I stop? This is the end of the chapter, or should I continue?
Yeah, you can stop there. All right. So from text 37, Arjuna is asking the question. Now, that's based on the fact that this Ashtanga Yoga is so difficult. So he's saying if somebody takes this practice and he doesn't continue, what happens? He's saying that if he takes the self-realization with faith but later desists due to worldly-mindedness and does not attain perfection. Now he's asking if such a man who is bewildered from the path fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a whirling cloud with no position in any sphere. Because if someone is doing something and he's working in that particular area, and then he gives that up and he's not working in that area anymore, starts working in another area, then what happens if he fails in that second area? He loses the result of both. So he's asking, that's the question he's asking. And then he's telling Krishna, again he's surrendering to Krishna and telling him, I ask you to dispel it completely, for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. So then Krishna says, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the next, or the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. So Krishna is saying that whatever devotional service you perform, whatever you do in the practice of yoga, that will go with you. It will take you to the next life and you won't lose that. So it's not like, if you just didn't succeed in the practice of Krishna consciousness, you're going to lose every time, all your effort, everything you put in. You won't. Now that verse 640, right? It's that says Sri Bhagavan Vacha Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinasas Tasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschid Dugatim Tata Gachati. So this is a famous verse also. This Dugatim Tata Gachati means is that to degradation my friend, goes. So he doesn't go to degradation, right? So he's never overcome by evil. He doesn't do to destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world, and he's never overcome by evil. So this is important to understand, that the practice of yoga, the practice of devotional service, protects one from the most dangerous type of fear and keeps one intact or in touch with the Supreme Lord, if not in this life continuously, but also in another life. So this said that the unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, then he's born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. And then he continues. So if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly such a birth is rare in this world. And then on taking such a birth, he revives his divine consciousness of his previous life, and he tries again to make further progress in order to achieve complete success. So this has been shown in many places in Srimad Bhagavatam, where that the elephant, he actually remembered Krishna when the alligator attacked him. He remembered Nrsimhadev. And they both became benefited by the Supreme Personality of Godhead at that time. So no one loses in the practice of devotional service. So by virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attached to yogic principles, even without seeking them. And this is the situation with persons who are born in this movement, and who are born of families who are practicing devotional service. It says such as that this inquisitive transcendental stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contamination, then ultimately, after achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. There's text 41, that is Prapya Punya Kritam Lokam Ushitva Shashvati Sama Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashto Vijayati. And that's the unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. So it shows that, he doesn't lose. He gets a good birth in his next life. And then the final verse is Yoginam api sarvesham Markaten antaratmana Shadavan bhajate yomam Same yuktatamo Makta. That is, and of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. So the highest yogi is the one who, with great faith, always abides in the Lord, thinks of Him within himself, and renders transcendental loving service. So Krishna is saying that is my opinion. So this chapter itself called Dhyana Yoga. Dhyana Yoga is a Sanga Yoga. So basically, it starts with the person being unattached to the fruits of his work, and then working as he is obligated, so he doesn't have to work, but he's working as he's obligated. And then he is a true mystic, and it's mentioned that one who lights no fire and performs no duty is not really a true mystic. So there a lot of people who claim to be sadhus and that, they're not doing any work. They're not even cooking. They're not performing any duty. They're just going from house to house, person to person, and begging for their subsistence. But if they're not unattached to the fruits and they're not working as they're obligated, they actually are not doing the right thing. So renunciation is the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme. And the neophyte in the yoga system, he has to work in the beginning, but if he becomes elevated, he ceases all material activity. So this is nice to understand that the transcendentalist, he ceases all material activity. Not he ceases all activity, but he ceases all material activity. So basically, again, the yogi, he doesn't perform any kind of fruitive work, and it is said that he has to deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself, and that the mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and the enemy as well. So for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. And here Krishna says, the Supersoul is already reached for one who has conquered the mind, for he has attained tranquility, and such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are the same, because he knows everything takes place by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he accepts it all. So the person is said to be established in self-realization, called a yogi or mystic, because he is satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization, and such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stone, or gold, as the same. And that also is a special verse that Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutashto Vijitendriyai Yukta Ichi Uchite Yogi Sama Lostrasna Kanchana. Prabhupada always quotes this last line, Sama Lostrasna Kanchana. And that means equipoise, and he sees pebbles, stone, and gold as the same. He sees the belongings of others as garbage in the street. He's not concerned about that. And then the process, this process actually makes him regard honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, the mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal mind. So the yogi is seeing that everyone is deserving of Krishna consciousness, and he realizes that they're all able to do it, but they need to be guided properly. So he's open to them, and he tries to help everyone. So the transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind, and self in relationship with the Supreme, and he should live alone in a secluded place, and should always carefully control his mind, should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. So this is the process of Sanga Yoga, and then Krishna Arjuna said, "This is difficult." And Krishna explains about the control of the mind. But he says, you can control the mind by steady practice and determination. So basically, this again goes through the practice of yoga. But in the end, Krishna says, out of all the yogis, he who abides in me with great faith, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, is most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. So we still have time. We can move on to the next chapter. And this chapter is chapter 7, which is knowledge of the absolute. All right. So Raghunandan, you can start reading the chapter.
Okay. So we're going 1 minute there. Okay, how about Prabhuji? So we're going to the new chapter, right?
Yeah, we're doing the new chapter.
Okay, all right. I just made a mistake here. Okay, knowledge of the absolute, chapter 7. Text 1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Now hear, O son of Papa, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt." Text 2. I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and luminous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you. Nothing further shall remain for you to know. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and for those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Text 4. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, all together, these 8 constitute my separated material energy. Besides this almighty Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature.
Okay, you can hold that. So basically here, he's saying that if you practice yoga in full consciousness of him, with mind attached to him, you can know him in full. And that's what he said, in the last chapter, last verse of the last chapter, that yogi is the highest of all, who is attached to him and practices yoga in full consciousness of him. So here he's saying you can know me in full, free from doubt. Then he mentioned that I'm now going to declare to you this knowledge, both phenomenal, and phenomenal means of the phenomena of the material world. He's explaining everything in that way. And then luminous, this is of the spiritual nature also. So he's going to explain the material and the spiritual natures. So this being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. So that's basically everything, matter and spirit. There's nothing else. So then he goes to say, out of many thousands of men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knoweth me in truth. And the other verse is earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether these 8 comprise my separated materiality. And then he goes on to say that besides these, Almighty M, there is another superior energy of mind which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. So he's explaining what kind of knowledge he's going to give to him. And that knowledge that he's going to give to him is knowledge of the phenomena of the material world and knowledge of the spiritual nature. So the first thing he says is the first thing he says is, out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And this text 3 is a famous verse also. So that's Bhagavad Gita 7:3. And that's Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kasid Yatu Siddhaye Yatatam Api Siddhanam Hasidnam Vitat Padaha. So this is out of many thousands of all men, one may endeavor for perfection. But out of those who are endeavoring, out of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So one can come to the perfect stage where he's free from materialism, and he might try to merge into the impersonal absolute sometimes. All right. But only the ones who practice devotional service can know Krishna in truth. So this is to say how rare devotional service is. Now then he mentions earth, water, fire, air, ether. Now he's going to explain the phenomenal nature of the material world. And this is Bhumi, Rapo, Nalo, Vayu, Kamma, No, Buddhi, Revacha. Ahankara Ityame Bina Prakriti Ashtata. So these two verses, 3 and 4, they are famous verses. Alright, and then he goes on to say that besides these, O mighty Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind, and that's Apariyam Itastuanyam Prakritim Vidame Param Jiva Bhutam Mahabaho Yayedam Dharyate Jagat. So this is also a famous verse. So now he mentions, first he mentions earth, water, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, and these comprise the separated material energies. And he says, besides this, there is another superior energy of mind which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. So these are the two energies, the material energy and the spiritual energy. Alright, so we can continue with text 6. Alright, we can go ahead and read text 6.
All created beings have their source in of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world. Know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. Text 7. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. Text 8. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. Text 9. I am the original fragrance of the earth, and I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. Text 10. O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. Text 11. I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of the Bharata's Arjun. Text 12. Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me. Text 13. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Text 14. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Text 15.
All right, you can hold that. You can hold that. So 6 through 14. Uh, so then since he mentioned the two natures, the spiritual and material, he's saying that all created beings have their source in these two natures. And of all that is spiritual and all that is material in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and dissolution. So matter is the origin. Krishna is the origin of matter. Krishna dissolves matter also. So you find that even matter and spirit, they are all within the control of Krishna. So Krishna says, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. And this means that no matter who you serve, if you serve Maya or you serve Krishna, you're still serving Krishna, but you're doing it in an incorrect way. So the transcendentalist understands the real method and serves Krishna properly. He says, O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. And this is another famous verse. It's Mata Parataram Nanyat Kinchirasti Dhananjaya Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Manigana Iva. So he's saying that there is no truth superior to me. So basically, he's saying that everything is under my control. Ishavasya sarvam yat kincha jagat jam jagat. So we are seeing that everything is owned and controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we know that He's the origin of everything. Now he says, everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So that verse again, Bhagavad Gita 7:7. That's another famous one. And this other one, 7:8, is quoted quite a lot too. Rasoham apsukanteya prabhasmi shashi suryayo pranava sarvad vedeshu sabda ke parusham nishu. It's not that much of a, but it's quoted a lot. And then he says that I am the original fragrance of the earth, heat and fire, the life of all that lives, penances of all ascetics. And then he says, I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men. Strength of the strong, devoid of desire, passion and desire, sex life which is not contrary to religious principles, O Lord of the Bharata. So Krishna think that sex life is not, it's a sinful thing or it's a low class and full of lust. But here he's saying, I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. And then he says, know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent and not under the modes of material nature. For on the contrary, they are within me. So he creates the modes of material nature, but he's not under control, because they're created by him. And then he says, know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, manifested by my energy. I'm in one sense everything, but I'm independent. I'm not under the modes of material nature. So then he goes on to say that deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above these modes and inexhaustible. So this is our attachment, deluded by the modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. And he goes on to say in chapter 14, this divine energy of mine, consisting of the modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. And this is also a famous verse. This is 7:14. And this is Daivihi Esha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Mayamitam Karantite. So again, this divine energy of mine and this energy called Maya, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So here it said by the Pope in the purport, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. Although the living entities are part of his energies and are therefore divine, due to their contact with material energy, their original superior power is covered, being thus covered by material energy. One cannot possibly overcome its influence. As previously stated, both the material and spiritual natures, being emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are eternal. So, and then the living entities belong to the superior nature of the Lord, but due to contamination by the inferior nature, matter, the illusion, is also eternal. So it could be that one is Nitya Bhada, eternally conditioned by taking shelter of Maya all the time. Alright, so basically, one can surrender onto it. Hold 1 second for me. Okay, I'm sorry, I was on mute all the time. But basically, we went through Dhyana Yoga. We started knowledge of the Absolute. So we can actually finish up the chapter on the next reading. The only thing is tomorrow I'll be busy, and on the following day we're traveling back home. So we won't do anything until probably Thursday again. All right? Anyone had any comments, questions, realizations on the subject matter?
Consciousness is that earth, water, fire, air, as well as the mind, intelligence, and the false ego are also part of his material energy. So it's only is it only that the soul, which is our spirit soul, that is actually part of the superior energy, or which is different from the material energy in us?
Yeah, earth, water, fire, ether is a composition of the material body, the gross body. And mind, intelligence, and false ego is the subtle body. Now, when we move from one body to another, we go via the subtle body. All right. Um, so when we go via the subtle body, what happens is, we carry our impressions from one life to the other. So that's why we have certain capabilities from one birth to another. Some people are born with, different kinds of abilities. So that's basically what it is, right? So it's a material body, but it's the gross and the subtle body, and the spirit soul is separate from that.
It's like our consciousness, our active consciousness, that is part of the superior energy. So it's just it's all the time constantly getting diluted by identifying with the false ego or the mind or the intelligence, or getting all the time attracted towards sense gratification. So even so, it's basically that is the superior energy. Our consciousness keeps confusing with the material energy. It keeps in when it comes in contact with it or interacts with it. So I see. Is that's what I think Srila Prabhupada also has written in one. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
what.
the the consciousness is the symptom of the soul. So that consciousness is the consciousness, which is it's the quality of the spirit soul. So one is conscious of everything that's happening to him, right? That consciousness, that awareness, that is the spirit soul. And the spirit soul is knowledge, bliss, um, existence, knowledge, and bliss. That's the nature of the spirit soul. It is not the material nature. It's not the subtle body. It's not the gross body. Because the spirit soul is the one who is experiencing what takes place in this body by our emotions in the three modes of material nature. Does that make sense to you?
That's clear. More clear, probably, because actually that was what my next question was, that then is the consciousness, then the emotions, and these, what role do they play? But basically that's how the consciousness is experiencing the material nature, the material the three modes of material nature and all that. It's like through the emotions, through the reactions. So I get it. I get it. Hmm. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. The consciousness is the symptom of the soul, basically. All right. So that's how we're actually understanding, we're actually seeing, feeling, understanding. That's the real person. That consciousness is the real person.
So, Prabhuji, one last question. So I know Lord Krishna Krishna has also said in another verse that all intelligence, memory, and forgetfulness comes from him. So it's almost like that kind that basically connects with this also, that because the mind, intelligence, and false ego are part of his material energy, so it's basically Lord Krishna is kind of not, manipulating is not the right word, but basically he can basically change our he that it makes sense that he can give us intelligence because it is part of his material energy. He can give us intelligence to go in either way, wherever. Yeah. So yeah, I think it connects for me. I think it's just, but yeah, that's
Yeah, he says, I'm the super soul in all beings, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So basically, you know, that everything comes from him. If we want to forget him, he gives us that forgetfulness. If we want knowledge, he gives us that knowledge. If we want remembrance of him, he gives us remembrance of him. You know, so it's basically what we want. Krishna is not saying, okay, you have to do this, you have to do that, but he's saying that if you do this, you get this result, and if you do that, you get another result. So basically, he says that from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. And that's
what we have that free choice, and I mean that's what happens in the end also. Like Lord Krishna tells Arjun, I have told you everything, now what do you want to do? So that's the same thing for us also, as you just said, Prabhuji, that it's we have free choice. We can either, if you want to forget Lord Krishna, he will give us that. If you want to remember him, then he will give that. If you want to understand him or try to persevere here, then he will give us intelligence, like he's giving Arjun as well. So I get it. That's very helpful, Prabhuji, that as you want, as you wish, that's how he reciprocates. And I think Lord Krishna has said that also in multiple places. As people surrender to me, I reward them like that. As people as people come to me, I reciprocate them with them exactly in the same manner. Like as much love they show me, that's how I reciprocate with them. I think something like that he has said in Srimad Bhagavatam also to the gopis.
uh, he does say that. He does say that. As all surrender to me, and he said on Bhagavad Gita, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. So, no matter what we do, material or spiritual, it's all Krishna. So the intelligent person just worship Krishna instead of the material energy. Especially like the demigods, worship of the demigods is not necessary, because by worshiping the Supreme Lord, everything everyone is satisfied. And just as by watering the root of a tree, all the leaves and twigs and branches are fulfilled, and by supplying food to the stomach, the entire body is nourished. So by worshipping the Supreme Lord, everyone is satisfied. And always remember, there is nothing but Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, material or spiritual. We don't know anything but Him. Alright, so I think we can stop here tonight.
I have a question, Prabhuji, before you go.
Go ahead.
On 26 on chapter 7. 26 chapter 7. Yes, we say, for wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. How we get this, how we get that that is not easily done. Because sometimes you want to bring your mind back and your mind still flick onto something that you doesn't even want it to be on. But it's like in a mood of forgetfulness for it to come out, or maybe drop asleep or in a dream. Certain thing. Is that right?
Yeah, so from wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and uncertainty, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. So basically, this is the practice of yoga. One must actually control the mind and the senses. So we have to make an effort to control the mind. Now Krishna says the mind is difficult to control, but we can actually control it by his help. So the way to control the mind is to perform devotional service, to read the scriptures, to do service, to chant the holy names, you know, to associate with devotees on the platform of devotional service, and take prasad. All these things will give us remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and control of the mind. So there are many ways to do it, right? But if we take shelter of material nature, then what happens is the mind begins to become uncontrollable. So like some sannyasis, some devotees, they will not eat anything on the outside because everything has to be properly prepared and offered to the Supreme Lord. And they know that whatever is taken from the outside can cause the mind to become a little bit uncontrolled. So then not only that, but whatever activities you engage in, that can also cause the mind to become uncontrolled. So basically, the only thing to do it is devotional service. We don't have to forcefully, because this chapter is Astanga Yoga. That chapter 6 is Astanga Yoga. But Arjuna says this is very difficult, right? So he considers it like an unendurable task, and devotional service is the way. But in the beginning of this chapter, if you read the purport to text 1, right? You see, in this chapter, the Lord explains that the process of the Eightfold Yoga System is a means to control the mind and senses. However, this is very difficult for people in general, especially in the age of Kali. And although the Eightfold Yoga System is recommended in this chapter, the Lord emphasizes that the process of Karma Yoga, or acting Krishna consciousness, is better. Right? So that's right there in the first purport to the first verse in this chapter, because this chapter talks about Astanga Yoga, or the Eightfold Yoga System. All right, but by acting to Krishna consciousness, it's easier to control the mind, the senses. It's easier to stay on the path of devotional service, and easier to go back to Godhead. Does that make sense?
Yes, Babuji. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so we can stop here tonight, and Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai, or Premanandi Hari.
Hari Bol.
So also that we won't read tomorrow on the following day, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.